What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. I wanted to do a quick Pittsburgh Steelers free agency update. I did a video, one of my previous videos on this channel about the Pittsburgh Steelers free agency. I listed all the free agents we had, whether we were going to re-sign them or let them go, and some guys we should go after in free agency. A nice big detailed video that did pretty well on YouTube. Go check that out if you have not seen that. But I haven't brought you guys a Steeler video since then, so I wanted to quickly update you guys on where I think the Steelers are in free agency and kind of how I'd grade it and kind of the losses and gains we've gotten since I last talked to you guys a few weeks back. So Pittsburgh has lost a lot of pieces. We kind of expected that. We had the fifth worst cap situation. Even in spite of a few restructurings, we didn't have much money. Pittsburgh is not a big free agency team. They don't spend a lot of money in general. They didn't have a lot of money to spend, and they had a lot of guys to try and re-sign, so you kind of knew we were going to lose some pieces. And for a while there, it wound up being a little worse than we expected even. Starting with the biggest name free agent, Bud Dupree, he's gone. He went and got a big deal in Tennessee. Congratulations, Bud Dupree. We couldn't have paid him that, so we expected Bud to go. We've got Highsmith ready to go. We do need depth at outside linebacker, but we have Highsmith in place as the starter alongside TJ Watt outside. So we got our guy. Bud's gone. Sad to see him go. Then we have Mike Hilton, slot corner. I predicted he was going to leave as well. We re-signed Cam Sutton, which I'll talk about later, but we got Sutton in our slot. Our cornerback situation's a little bit rougher than we expected. But Hilton we expected to lose. We didn't think he'd go to the Bengals in our division, but he did. But he got paid, and he deserves it. He's one of the best slot corners in the league. So good for Hilton. He is a loss for us, but we did have guys in place, at least for a while there. We'll get to that. Matt Filer is a surprise. I thought he'd come back to Pittsburgh and re-sign. We lost Filer to the Chargers, Los Angeles Chargers. He got paid fairly well, but the offensive line obviously has got a couple losses now with Pouncey and Filer. Villanueva's still sitting out there right now. We don't know whether he's going to come back or not. So Filer was definitely a loss for us. He's an underrated, reliable offensive line player. And then two cuts we had to make for cap reasons, which I didn't expect. I didn't list these cuts, and I thought they would find a way to keep these two guys. So this is where I was like, oh, our offseason is really kind of tanking right now. That is inside linebacker Vince Williams and cornerback Steven Nelson. Now all of a sudden we're in trouble. Now all of a sudden, okay. So inside linebacker, you got Devin Bush returning off injury. We have not re-signed we have not re-signed Avery Williamson yet, and then we go and lose Vince Williams. So Vince Williams was our starter last year, and pretty much every year. He got hurt last year, so he didn't play much last year. Toward the second half of the season, but Vince Williams, high energy guy, great tackler, hometown leader. I like this guy a lot. To lose him is a big deal. I don't know if he's gotten signed somewhere else yet, but it's sad to see him go. I didn't expect to lose him. Now, inside linebacker, we kind of need someone to fill the void because right now, as of it stands under contract, we re-signed Robert Spillane. So Spillane and Devin Bush are starting. Spillane, I thought, came in nicely last year to fill in, but as a full-time starter, you really don't want to see that. I mean, he was our third to fourth inside linebacker last year. And although he played well, he's not nearly as good, in my opinion, as Williams, Williamson, or Bush. So nothing against Spillane. He made some big plays last year, played better than we all expected him to. But to have him starting this year full-time alongside a guy returning from injury makes me a little nervous. Cornerback, obviously, Steven Nelson was our number 2 corner. I thought he played very, very well for Pittsburgh for the last couple of years. He wasn't expected to do that much from Kansas City when he came over, but he came over and became cornerback 2 and had 2 really good seasons here. Losing him on top of Hilton makes it really tough because even though we re-signed Cam Sutton, now Sutton's got to go outside and play outside. I thought we were going to come into this season with Hayden and Nelson on the outside and then Sutton on the inside. I was really excited about that combination. But now, with Hilton and Nelson being gone, we're going to have Hayden on the outside with Nelson, who's better on the inside. Or I'm sorry, with Cam Sutton, who's better on the inside. And we need somebody else to play that slot corner. And then we need to also draft depth for the outside, unless we believe that James Pierre or Justin Lane is going to be the future, and I'm not quite sure. They're really high on Pierre. But there's need for depth now at inside linebacker and cornerback, both inside and outside. So that those two cuts are big cuts for us, big losses, and create big holes for us. So to add on defense, to lose Dupree, Hilton, Nelson, and Williams, 4 big-time starters on offense at different levels, not really a fan of that. We did re-sign a whole bunch of guys pretty cheap. We did bring back a lot of people. Zach Banner at tackle. I like bringing back Banner. We need a tackle, obviously. He competed for the starting job last year and won it before he got injured in game 1. He beat out Chicks Okorafor, so he's back on the roster. He probably is going to be our starter this year at tackle. But to re-sign him on a 2-year, $10 million deal, that surprised me. For that kind of money you could have gotten 1 or 2 other starters for decent prices. I saw other guys going for pretty cheap that we could have brought in. Nothing against Zach Banner, I'm glad he's back, but we signed him at a really high price point. So even though we got him back, it kind of feels like a loss in a way. You know, an unproven guy who's never really started for us and coming off a long-term injury. I don't know about $10 million for that guy. No offense to Banner. Again, re-signing Cam Sutton was one of our biggest needs. Glad we got him back, especially now that Nelson's gone. We need Sutton to play both inside and outside for us somehow. Tyson Alualu, interesting one. He left us initially to go to Jacksonville on like a $6 million deal. And that's where I was screaming, okay, you're going to let Alualu go. He's one of our biggest free agents. He's one of the best D tackles in the league, in my opinion. He's a game changer. He can pass rush, he can tackle, he can bat balls. He did a lot for us at D tackle, and I was sad to see him go. I think he was our biggest loss in free agency, signing back with Jacksonville where he started. And then something changed. When he was going to sign his contract for Jacksonville, something stopped him from traveling. I don't know if it was COVID or what. Something stopped Alualu from traveling to go sign his Jacksonville contract, and he stayed here and re-signed with Pittsburgh. So he was committed to Jacksonville, wound up staying here. That's huge for us. We couldn't afford to lose a 5th starter on defense, especially an impactful inside one with Alualu, with no proven starter behind him. I like a couple other guys behind him like Bugs, but I was not sold as a starter yet. So to get Tyson Alualu back is one of the steals for me of free agency. It's one of the biggest, probably the biggest, single biggest positive. Re-signed Cassius Marsh, D-end, for a cheap price. Good to get him back on the cheap. Juju Smith-Schuster, biggest surprise at re-signing for me. Didn't think he was going to stay. Turned down a few extra $1 million from Baltimore to come back here. Appreciate that, Juju. He didn't have the market that he expected. He got paid way, way less. I think he's back here on like a $9 million deal, $8 million deal for 1 year. So maybe he's going to go try again next year when the market's reset and see if he can do better. But we got him back. He's going to be one of our top 3 receivers. It's hard to say kind of where each guy is between our 3 receivers, but he's going to be a main target for us. Chris Wormley, much like Marsh, we got him back. Underrated depth at D-end. Also can play D-tackle, so we got him back at a good price. Robert Spillane, good to get him back, especially considering we don't know what else we're doing at inside linebacker. Again, a couple guys still sitting out there, like Avery Williamson. I would like to get him back if we can. Ola Adeni surprisingly left. He went to Tennessee just like Bud Dupree did. Tennessee now has 3 of our outside linebackers. In Bud Dupree, Ola Adeni, and Tuzar Skipper. They're all at Tennessee. So we need depth badly at outside linebacker. We have nobody outside of our 2 starters, so got to sign some guys there. And Ray McLeod. McLeod got re-signed, our kick returner, punt returner, and wide receiver 5. Good to see him back as well. He's good for the Matt Canada gadget style offense, the sweeps and stuff like that. Good to see him back. We did sign 5 free agents. They're not guys who are going to set the world on fire. They're not exactly impact starters. The one guy they did sign that I expected and I said they would sign and I said they should sign is B.J. Finney. He's back in Pittsburgh on a good deal. He came back from Cincinnati after he was cut there in the offseason. Finney knows the system. He can play multiple spots on the outside. He can even play center if need be. He can play, I think, tackle or guard. I think he plays all 3. So good to see a system guy that can play around the line that's been started for us in the past. And he was pretty good here in Pittsburgh. He was a solid starter. So good to get him back for offensive line depth. Speaking of offensive line, there are 2 more offensive linemen we did sign. Joe Haig from Tampa Bay, from the Buccaneers, who you guys will recall got a pass attempt in the end zone in the Super Bowl. He didn't catch it, but offensive lineman Joe Haig got signed, and also Rashad Coward from the Bears, offensive line depth. So we have 2 guys here, but I'm not sure where they're going to play. I don't think they were that impactful. They both did start games elsewhere, Coward in Chicago, and I think Haig started a handful of games in Tampa. So we do have 2 guys that have started elsewhere. I guess we can plug them in. We have our guards right now with DeCastro and Dotson. We have those two guys. Right now, J.C. Hassenauer, who we re-signed, is going to be our center, or Finney. So we have probably I would rather have Finney in there, but I don't know if he can fully play center. So we have two proven starters. We need three other guys we can really trust, and Finney's a good piece, but I don't know where Coward or Haig fit in. They're low price signings. They've started elsewhere, so their experience depth, if nothing else. They didn't cost us much, but if you're going to sign an offensive lineman, just take those two contracts and just sign one guy for like a 1 year $4 million or 2 year $9 million deal. Take some of that money and just put it to a proven starter somewhere else to fill one of our tackle spots or our center spot. Obviously, we're gonna draft one, if not two or three offensive linemen. I think we should start with center in the draft, but we'll see where that goes. But we do have multiple depth pieces now. We do have 8 offensive linemen under contract right now, so we'll see where that goes. Still waiting on Villanueva, actually. Villanueva's still sitting there. We'll see what happens with him. We also signed 2 other guys. We signed Miles Killebrew, special teams guy from Detroit. He doesn't do much playing time at linebacker, but he is a special teams player that played pretty well for them there. I guess he's going to replace Ola Adeni as a backup linebacker kind of type who plays special teams and shines there. I think he's going to be the new Ola. So if he can make tackles there, then that's a good piece for us. But I don't think he's going to play at linebacker very much. And then we signed Kalen Ballage last night from, I think he played last in Los Angeles Chargers. He bounced around a little bit. Kalen Ballage he's solid. Again, if you're going to sign a running back, I saw guys like Jamal Williams were out there for a while from Green Bay. I think I'm not sure where he went, but I don't think it was that expensive. I know the Colts former starter, the Colts guy, went for like 2 years for $2 million. Pittsburgh couldn't sign that guy. He was a proven starter for a year, played really, really well. Kalen Ballage, again, he's been a good number 2, number 3 linebacker or running back in the systems that he's been in. He's got some burst. He runs through tackles. He's not a bad depth signing, but when you already have 4 guys on your roster, I'm assuming that means that obviously Connor, who's sitting out there right now, is probably not going to get re-signed, and obviously they're not going to re-sign Jalen Samuels either, and they're going to keep the 2 guys they drafted in the last 2 years. But Kalen Ballage, again, nothing against this piece. It was a cheap signing. He can be our number 2/3 running back. I don't think he's all that impactful. I would have rather gone after one of the free agents who's got a low market right now that's been a proven starter for a longer period of time. But Ballage is a fine piece. He can come in there, catch some passes, be our 3rd running back, and add to the system. I still hope we draft Javonte Williams or one of the top 3 at running back in the 2nd round of this draft. So that's how we're doing. I would give this draft so far a D+. The plus comes from getting Juju back on the surprise and re-signing both Cam Sutton and the surprise of Tyson Alualu coming back at the last minute. That's where the positive stuff comes from. Everything else is a negative. Obviously, we lost our 2 biggest name free agents. We let Filer go, and we had to cut 2 starters in Williams and Nelson, and we had lost Alualu to a small deal at the time, and we got him back. So losing 5 starters on defense is rough, and obviously our offensive line needs help. We need a lot of depth. We lost a lot of backup guys as well. So right now, not the best, but there's still time. There's still the draft. A lot of our guys who were depth last year are starters this year, so as long as they can play well, we've still got a chance for a good season. So not terribly in favor of what they're doing, but they're at least gathering bodies, gathering pieces. I hope they can make a few signings in the coming days. I'm posting this on March 31st, so anything after that, I'll have to make another video. We'll see. So take care, Steelers. What do you guys think of our losses and signings? What do you think of our free agency so far? Is my D+ being too harsh on them? Let me know in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.